Politician Tiffany Henyard appears to have lost control of both governments.
Henyard's landlord showed up here to see her tenant in person after she says Henyard has been dodging both her and rent.
Tiffany Henyard's once promising political career has spiraled into scandal, going from a historic achievement as the first Black woman elected mayor of Dalton, Illinois, to a devastating fall from grace marked by corruption, financial mismanagement, and a rapidly crumbling public image. Initially celebrated as a symbol of change and progress, Henyard's time in office quickly unraveled amid growing allegations of misconduct, leaving the town shaken and disillusioned. What was supposed to be a period of transformation for Dalton has instead been marred by a series of controversies that have severely undermined trust in Henyard's leadership. Central to the scandal are claims that Henyard misused taxpayer funds for personal gain, including extravagant purchases that have left the community reeling. Among the most shocking revelations is a $43,000 Amazon shopping spree made in a single day, raising alarms over her handling of public finances. Other reports show lavish spending on first-class flights, five-star hotels, and even a $110,000 stay at the Four Seasons Hotel in Atlanta. These lavish expenditures have exacerbated Dalton's growing financial crisis, leading residents to question her priorities and judgment. What was once a hopeful period for Dalton's revitalization has now given way to financial instability under Henyard's leadership. Critical projects have stalled, and the town's debt has soared to unsustainable levels. Efforts to implement meaningful reforms have been thwarted by Henyard's refusal to cooperate, and trustees who once supported her now find themselves scrambling to undo the damage caused by her actions. Dalton's fiscal health, which seemed on the rise, now teeters on the brink of collapse, leaving a town once full of promise, now fractured by scandal. The ongoing financial crisis in Dalton, Illinois, has been exacerbated by delays and obstructions in implementing an emergency budget to address urgent fiscal concerns. This has left residents increasingly anxious about the town's future. Public frustration has reached new heights, fueled by suspicions that Mayor Tiffany Henyard is making last-ditch efforts to retain power or avoid accountability. Rumors of her connections to legal troubles and her resistance to transparency have led to widespread speculation that she may be attempting to shield herself from legal consequences. As tensions escalate, trustees and residents alike are questioning whether Henyard might resort to drastic measures to evade scrutiny. Many fear she could attempt to flee before facing the full consequences of her actions. The uncertainty surrounding her leadership, combined with the possibility of her avoiding accountability, has left Dalton in a state of limbo. Residents remain unsure whether Henyard will be held responsible for alleged financial misconduct, or if the town will endure even greater hardship before this crisis reaches its conclusion. The FBI's investigation into Henyard has intensified, signaling the gravity of the allegations against her. Federal authorities are thoroughly examining her financial activities to determine the extent of any potential misconduct. For Dalton residents, this investigation represents a glimmer of hope that justice will prevail. However, uncertainty remains regarding if or when legal action will be taken against her, leaving the community in a state of unease. As Dalton faces a deepening crisis in governance and public trust, the fallout from Henyard's actions has pushed the town to the brink. Her refusal to address concerns with transparency or accountability has fostered a toxic environment of distrust and division. Residents worry about the town's future and closely follow the investigation, hoping for clarity and resolution to the chaos engulfing Dalton. Although Henyard's removal from office appears increasingly likely, the damage caused by her administration raises concerns about Dalton's ability to recover. Her opposition to reform, mounting legal troubles, and resistance to public accountability have pushed the town closer to financial and political disintegration. It remains uncertain whether she will face consequences for her actions before stepping down, or if further upheaval will be necessary to fully uncover the extent of her alleged misconduct. As public pressure mounts and the investigation intensifies, Dalton's future hangs in the balance. The pursuit of justice appears to be gaining momentum, but its ultimate timing and outcome remain uncertain. Tiffany Henyard's rise to power was initially seen as a historic and hopeful milestone. When elected as Dalton's first African-American woman mayor in 2021, her victory symbolized a turning point for a town burdened by long-standing challenges. Her election inspired optimism, with promises of community-driven projects, economic revitalization, and effective governance. For a time, it seemed as though she was delivering on these promises, earning widespread support. However, within just 2 years, this hopeful narrative began to unravel. By 2022, cracks in Henyard's administration had become impossible to ignore. Reports of financial misconduct, misuse of public funds, and extravagant personal spending engulfed her government, leading to widespread disillusionment. Allegations ranged from luxury hotel stays and first-class flights to an infamous $43,000 single-day Amazon shopping spree that outraged residents. These accusations of fiscal irresponsibility were compounded by claims that Henyard actively obstructed accountability measures, vetoing reforms, and blocking the hiring of outside auditors. Her once loyal base began to crumble, with former allies on the town's board of trustees becoming some of her fiercest critics. By then, Dalton's administration was in complete disarray, facing mounting financial and infrastructural challenges. Public trust eroded to such an extent that town hall meetings turned into arenas of confrontation. Protests intensified, and social media campaigns calling for Henyard's resignation gained traction, further damaging her credibility. Henyard's erratic behavior at official meetings drew widespread criticism. She was seen using a golden microphone and allowing a DJ to play Rihanna's "Bah, I better have my money," gestures that were met with ridicule rather than support. These antics further alienated her constituents, reinforcing the perception that she was out of touch with the town's needs. Meanwhile, the FBI's escalating investigation cast an ever-growing shadow over her leadership. Despite mounting scandals, Henyard remained defiant, branding herself as a misunderstood champion of the people. She adopted the title of Super Mayor, dismissing critics and doubling down on her leadership. However, her rhetoric and grandiose behavior only fueled speculation about her fitness for office. Reports of her potential ties to Deputy Police Chief Ellis Lacey, who was indicted for bankruptcy fraud, further raised concerns about corruption within her administration. As legal and public scrutiny intensified, fears grew that Henyard might attempt to flee before facing potential legal consequences. In response, trustees scrambled to limit her influence, implementing strict financial controls, revoking her access to local credit cards, and launching partial inquiries into her financial dealings. Yet, these efforts were met with relentless obstruction, creating a governance gridlock that deepened Dalton's financial crisis and destabilized essential services. Residents, watching the ongoing investigation with a mix of frustration and hope, remain uncertain about the town's future. What was once envisioned as a period of revitalization has instead become a cautionary tale of mismanagement. While the possibility of Henyard facing legal consequences looms large, Dalton's future remains in jeopardy as her defiance and the town's deteriorating infrastructure put its stability at risk. The unfolding investigation, mounting public outcry, and increasing political instability have left Dalton in a state of flux. With the prospect of Henyard's removal growing more likely, the question remains: can Dalton recover from the damage caused by her leadership, or is the town on the brink of collapse? As residents await the resolution of this dramatic saga, the investigation continues, and the town's fate hangs in the balance. Henyard's tenure, once seen as a beacon of hope, has devolved into a vortex of scandal and controversy. As evidence of financial malfeasance and mismanagement continues to emerge, her former supporters have turned against her, frustrated by her refusal to address the growing allegations. The division within the community has left many residents and officials hoping for justice, while others remain uncertain about whether she will be held accountable. As the supervisor of Thornton Township, Henyard wielded significant influence over 2 local government departments, which further deepened public distrust. Instead of fostering progress, she faced accusations of corruption and reckless spending. Heated exchanges with both Dolton and Thornton Township trustees highlighted widespread dissatisfaction, with many attributing Dolton's financial woes directly to her leadership. Complaints from Thornton Township trustees echoed similar concerns, pointing to a troubling pattern of fiscal irresponsibility. Reports of questionable financial practices and extravagant spending have fueled speculation that Henyard's leadership, once seen as a transformative force, was ultimately overtaken by power and corruption. As financial distress deepened and public trust eroded, her original ambitions for change were overshadowed by scandal. This shift, from a symbol of potential transformation to a controversial and embattled figure, has left a trail of disillusionment and resentment. Henyard's response to the turmoil has been marked by defiance and denial. She has steadfastly defended her decisions, blaming critics for undermining her efforts. However, her refusal to acknowledge the gravity of the situation has only further alienated her allies and emboldened her opponents. The growing discord within her administration, combined with public outrage, has left her position increasingly precarious. What began as a hopeful era of progress has unraveled into a storm of accusations, transforming Henyard's tenure into a cautionary tale of missed opportunities and the consequences of unchecked power. For Dolton and Thornton Township, the fallout remains unresolved. Residents anxiously await whether justice will be served or if Henyard will persist in her defiant stance until her term concludes. Her legacy is now marred by controversy, serving as a stark warning about the dangers of neglecting public trust.